Good day, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I'm your host, the voice of reason. So, in today's episode, we will continue our coverage of the ongoing events inside of the failed state of Ethiopia. And I've been asked why I use that terminology, the failed state of Ethiopia. Well, I think within the confines of any existing government, wherever it is, obviously there is a social contract, and then the people inside of that state then form said government, and it is really up to the people living inside of that republic, state, what have you, that then identifies as being part of that entity. And unfortunately, what has happened inside of Ethiopia, you now have a fairly significant body of people, and you have different bodies of people as well, ranging from the Tigray region, ranging down to the Oromo region, and even smaller ethnic groups that have decided that they do not want to be part of this system any longer and have decided to pick up the rifle and wage active war upon that entity which calls itself Ethiopia. And it's to an extent now, to such a large extent, that I believe that Ethiopia, for all practical terms, is a failed state. Now, granted, the situation in Addis Ababa is different than a lot of parts of the country, and I would say that quite possibly Ethiopia looks more like a city-state in terms of Addis Ababa as the center of power, and then obviously the main allied of that government is the Amhara region. So you have one region and a city-state that would appear to be calling itself the government of Ethiopia, representing the people of Ethiopia. However, again, you have a fairly significant, large portion of the population saying, no, we don't want to be part of it anymore. And it has gone to such an extreme that many of these people are now willing to pick up a rifle and actively fight that entity, which calls itself the Ethiopian government and the Prosperity Party led by Abiy Ahmed. So first, I've zoomed in on the map. I'm using a little bit of a different map than I normally do. Hope everyone can see what I am looking at. Obviously, this is the Tigray region. The green dots obviously signify the areas that the Tigray Defense Force currently control. The red areas would be defined as the Ethiopian state. The gray areas, such as this, would signify the deployment of Amhara militias. The yellow areas signify areas controlled by the Oromo Liberation Army, and obviously the red and yellow areas that are kind of blinking, as you can see, signify where there is active fighting occurring. And that goes for the same further up north as well. The blue obviously is Eritrea and areas that it occupies. Now, I would say that this blue probably should be Humera and other areas in western Tigray as well. And that's kind of where I'm going to start at in terms of the ongoing fighting that is occurring. So first, we are hearing that Eritrea continues to deploy significant amounts of assets and forces into western Tigray. We are seeing the Ethiopian army pull out of these areas in hopes of curtailing both the Tigray Defense Force operation that is occurring deep into the Amhara region, and at the same time it is going to need forces to prevent the ongoing operations by the Oromo Liberation Army. But at the same time, despotic regime of Afwerki really needs something to show for its military invasion of the Tigray region. It simply cannot completely pull out of the Tigray region and have a failed military operation that occurred and simply say, well, we were attempting to assist the Abiy Ahmed regime. That's just not really going to fly in terms of Afwerki maintaining his grip on power. So he has to have something in his hand to say, hey, we have either acquired new lands or we have eliminated a certain threat. And obviously, the only thing that he can say at this point is that he has acquired the parts of the western Tigray region, and that would be the one winning viewpoint that he could possibly articulate. And that is why we continue to see Eritrean forces in western Tigray, because if he were to withdraw from western Tigray, there simply was a military defeat in which he was forced to remove his forces from the Tigray region. We would probably say that the Tigray Defense Forces are now stronger than they were in November of 2020, as the nation is now fully mobilized and launching fairly significant offensive operations against its adversaries. But the situation in Western Tigray, I would say that it would probably be prudent. Now, obviously, this could change, in which the TDF does not launch an all-out operation into Western Tigray until it has the issues in the south resolved. Fighting a two-front war both against the Amhara region and the Ethiopian state, while fighting another war in the north against the Eritrean army, just simply would not be prudent. And again, I believe that the situation in the south must first be resolved, and then taking care of the Eritrean solution would be something that could possibly go forward with, if that would have to take place, and if the Eritrean army does not pull out of Western Tigray, which I do not believe it will, as that would just be really a completely military defeat for Isaias Afwerki. But the operations by the TDF continue with the push towards the Lake Tana Road junction and seizing the town of Wereta. The TDF continues to move in a westerly direction from Debre Tabor, and again cutting off the vital road junction I had discussed in a previous video. The operations continue in the south. We are continuing to get reports of very significant fighting that is taking place really all over the Oromia region. The level of conflict in this area now is at such that it's almost impossible to track day to day the type of operations that are occurring. There seems to be almost in some areas of the Oromia, there is a general uprising, and the Oromo Liberation Army continues to increase in size and strength as more and more Oromo peoples continue to join the Oromo Liberation Army. And again, yes, fighting is just outside of Addis Ababa. There's engagements to the north, to the west, just maybe 10 miles as a bird flies, or even less in some cases. The fighting is occurring that close to Addis Ababa. In the south, it's the same. There are towns and cities under siege, as you can see. The yellow signifies surrounding the red signifies that, for all intents and purposes, the Oromo Liberation Army has besieged said town that is identified as such. But as you can see, they have made significant gains over the last few weeks. In terms of areas captured, in terms of both the growth of the fighting force and just the size of the ongoing operations that are taking place. And then back up to the north, the Tigrayan Defense Forces have really consolidated its hold over large parts of southeastern Amhara region. And again, we're looking at the towns of Mersa, Weldia, Kobo, Lalibela, Sokoto, and obviously now Debre Tabor under the control of the Tigrayan Defense Forces. Further to the north, towards the fighting that is going on for the town of Debark, the TDF continues to press its operations towards that city. Again, I've discussed the mountain range that exists north of Debark that is making operations to seize the actual city very challenging. But when and if the city does finally fall, you're really looking at the ability for the TDF to operate south of Gondar and then coming in from the north of Gondar as well. And that would be a really horrendous loss on the part of the Ethiopian state and the Amhara militia as this operation continues to unfold, especially if we finally do see when Debark is finally captured, and we see sizable formations of the Tigrayan Defense Forces move into the Tana Lake region and sever that road junction, and then the operation towards Bahir Dar and obviously Gondar could proceed. We are hearing that in all likelihood an operation towards Bahir Dar is very imminent and is possibly underway as we speak. The TDF does have the ability to maneuver in other ways as well. So again, it would appear that forces of the TDF continue to migrate southwest and with the objective of eventually capturing Bahir Dar. And again, that would be an incredibly significant defeat. And that's not to say operations have ceased in the south of Weldia and Mersa. Those operations continue with the goal of taking control of Dese. The real efforts right now are also moving in reserve troops, assimilating those armaments that were captured by the Ethiopian army into the fighting corps of the Tigrayan Defense Forces, and it's a process that takes time, and obviously it's something that is being done. We are seeing for the really first time in which we are seeing the Tigrayan Defense Forces deploying tanks and heavy artillery in a fairly significant way against opposition forces, against the Ethiopian government and the Amhara militias. But that's what we have for today. As events warrant, I will absolutely report. Have a great day, everybody.